Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, episode 759. Yeah, 800 soon of the Real Deal Podcast with Cyril, Gerald-Quinn on this 15th of February 2021. Still getting used to saying 2021. Of course, Cyril, Gerald-Quinn discussing the world of sports and pop culture. Hope everybody had a great weekend. If you're fortunate enough to have a day off today, I hope you took advantage of that as well as you head back into the work week tomorrow for some of you. Let me get right to it in regards to the NBA because a lot of stuff going on. Number one, you have Anthony Davis I shouldn't say tweaked, he hurt his Achilles injury that he re-aggravated. Now he's going to be out anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks with Achilles strain. If the Lakers are smart, I would sit him however long it takes. I mean, you have to sit him until, I don't care if it's till, May or April. They cannot win a championship without Anthony Davis. And, that goes without saying. And also, I think that, you've got to try to convince LeBron to cut down on his minutes. LeBron's going to see this as an opportunity because we know how he thinks. Going to see this as an opportunity to win MVP, which he has put just way too much emphasis on. I mean, he's been, since the championship, since the bubble, he's been talking about the MVP, and I want my damn respect too. And he's, already planting seeds about the MVP coming into this season, coming off the bubble. Now is the time that it's not about the MVP right now, or his MVP candidacy. It's about the Lakers being healthy going into the playoffs. That's what it's all about. And the Lakers don't need to have the best record in the league or the Western Conference. The Lakers could be it doesn't matter if they're healthy, they're going to be the team to beat in the Western Conference if they're healthy. So it's really not even about seeding. Home court is not going to mean anything. Listen. Would you want to play the Clippers of Denver in the first round? Of course not. But if you have to, if that's a sacrifice for keeping Anthony Davis and LeBron healthy, then so be it. So be it. Again, it's going to be. Somebody's got to be able to get. I don't think somebody's got to be able to convince LeBron. Not so much about not going for the MVP, but it's more about resting, about trimming those minutes a bit, and really keeping him fresh for the postseason. He's immediately going to think, "Hey, this is I definitely could win the MVP this year with Anthony Davis being out. If I maintain this team's record if we maintain to be at the top of the conference or top of the league." So that seems that the health of the Lakers, the health of Anthony Davis, the health of LeBron James should be absolutely the number one priority. I don't see the Lakers making any moves to combat this. They're a deep team. They have guys. Kuzma started last night. I think Kuzma has actually played well this season. I'm not gonna second guess Anthony Davis coming back. He had missed a couple games. At least from all the reports, this seems like an injury that he's just going to have to play. He is going to have to play with. In regards to it seems like the Achilles is going to be bothering him for the rest of the season. And the only way that this is going to get healed is a full off season of rest. This is not a injury where I think that's going to require surgery. It's one of those things that it's kind of like it's not it's actually worse than tendonitis. There's actually some a little bit of structural damage in the Achilles, in the Achilles, but not major enough to keep him out for the whole season. So it's not that major, but concerning enough to where he needs to sit down for a minute. So I expect him to sit down longer than 3 weeks. I would not be surprised if we didn't see Anthony Davis back until mid-April, early May, to be honest with you. So Again, the big part of this is, again, convincing LeBron to shave minutes. Um, you allow other guys to get acclimated, in terms of, some of the other guys to play some other, to take up some of those minutes. Some other guys, again, they have a deep team. So this is, if this were last year, it would be much more concerning. But this year, their team is their team is deeper, much deeper than they were last year. So they should be able to keep their heads above water per se. They're not going to go. I mean, you still have LeBron James on the team, so they're not going to go into the tank. But to me, the main concern I would be convincing LeBron not to not go full board, playing 40 minutes, 38 minutes, and what have you. Play him 33, 32 to 34 minutes, and until the playoffs come around. Luka Doncic's plan is back to what he should have looked like at the beginning of the season, and back playing like an MVP, playing MVP type caliber basketball. We saw what he did to last night. He had, I think, 44, 9, and 7, even though they lost. They've been playing better basketball. They're starting to make some shots in terms of Dallas. He's finally in shape. I mean, Luka came into the season completely out of shape. Out of shape enough to where he just, he did not, on the reports, that he did not expect the season to start as quickly as it did, which I don't, maybe his agent and his people around him got some bad information. I don't understand how you were not training for anticipating that the season would start when it started, but that's a whole nother story. But the bottom line is, I mean, this guy is back to playing the type of basketball that had him favored by Vegas coming into the season to be the MVP of the league. Now, Dallas is still they'll be, they're going to struggle. They're probably, I think Dallas probably will make the playoffs because he's that great of a player, but they're not, they are not they're not a contender in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is too deep. But again, you'll get, the NBA in the worst way would want to have Luka in the playoffs. So, but again, it's good to see him playing the kind of basketball that we've been accustomed to seeing him playing, especially in the bubble, especially last season when he was first team All NBA. You have a couple of guys that could really impact some title contention, and in particular in terms of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. Now, Drummond more so, because I frankly don't know how much Griffin has left in the tank, or can Griffin even stay on the floor. If he's able to stay on the floor, he can still do some things, but more so Drummond. So these two guys are going to be sitting down until their respective teams. Griffin, of course, plays for Detroit, and Andre Drummond, of course, is with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their teams are going to be sitting them until they either get traded or bought out. So either they're going to get traded or bought out. I think Drummond, without question, will be traded because he by far has way more value than Blake Griffin. I mean, Andre Drummond defensively, rebounding. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you certainly will have your eye on him. Again, I don't know how much Griffin has left in the tank, to be honest with you. Yeah, like I wouldn't listen, even at a buyout, even if he were bought out, I would not touch Blake Griffin because I just don't know if he can stay on the floor, especially in this condensed season. So those two guys are not going to be playing until they're either bought out or traded. And of course, Saturday night you had Durant coming back to going back to the Bay or Golden State, his first time playing at their new arena, which kicked off last season. And they did what they had. Of course, had their way with Golden State, 134 to 117. Got great performances from James Harden. Kyrie played well late, but that game was mostly about James Harden, who was in complete control of the game in terms of with the pace and with his playmaking. Very interesting that Kyrie Irving has to let the world know what we already knew when James Harden got to the Nets, or at least after 3 or 4 games after James Harden played with the Nets, is that he was the point guard. I didn't need Kyrie. We didn't need that confirmation that James Harden is the point guard of that team. But I guess it's official now because Kyrie said that he's the point guard, I'm the two guard. So I guess now it's official that James Harden is the point guard of the Brooklyn Nets. But I feel like we've been knowing that for the past since James Harden got there. He's been the point guard and been the playmaker on that team. And which by the way, it should be that way. He should handle the ball more than Kyrie Irving. Considering that he's just a flat out better playmaker than Kyrie Irving. So I guess Kyrie just had to let us know. Just had to, I don't want to say pass the torch, but I guess he had to bequeath the point guard position to one James Harden. So Kyrie being Kyrie. But again, the Nets. Now Durant. Speaking of injuries, Durant's going to miss the next 2 games with a hamstring. I don't think. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think it's a serious injury. Even though you hear hamstring, you know how hamstrings can be dicey. I just think this is, I think they're going to be very, very careful with Kevin Durant. I really do. I think they're going to be very. You saw those games that Durant missed. They're not the same team. Kyrie can miss some games, they'll be fine. Harden can miss some games, and you have Durant, Kyrie, and they'll be fine. Even with Kyrie and Harden, they cannot afford to have Durant miss significant time or not be on the court. It's just, so they're going to be, as careful can be in regards to Kevin Durant. Anytime they get a chance to rest him, they will. And this is all there's to it. They absolutely will. You also see Paul George and Kawhi Leonard a little banged up. Again, I don't know how serious those injuries are. I think you're going to see a lot of teams are going to be resting these guys, especially their star players, and coming up with these injuries that a back strain or stuff that's minor, very minor, very stuff that they probably could play with. But again, remember, we're coming off the bubble, condensed season, quick turnaround. So keep that in mind. And teams are not outright going to say, we're sending a guy for a rest, to rest for the most part. The Wizards, we've seen that a couple times, but the Wizards are not, they're not a national team. Let's be honest. They're not on too many. The Wizards actually has been on more television games than I've realized. But I don't think the NBA is really stressing the Wizards sitting out guys, to be honest with you, especially with no fans. But because we saw Bradley Beal miss his first game this weekend of the season, he probably needed a more mental health break than anything playing with that team. But you're gonna see a lot of players, a lot of these star players, start to begin to really miss games with how this season is being configured. Also, great game tonight. Philadelphia has struggled on this West Coast swing to start out. They had a brutal loss to Portland. That was a very winnable game, and another winnable game against Phoenix. Those are 2 games that they easily could have won on this West Coast swing. So they're playing. And again, the West Coast is, you get the wrong West Coast trip, it could be just brutal because the West Coast is loaded. There are really how many easy spots are there in the West Coast, in the Western Conference? Maybe Oklahoma City. I mean, even Memphis can be frisky at times. But Portland, who actually is playing well, had a great win last night against Dallas in Dallas. Another clutch shot from Damian Lillard as him and Luka kind of went back and forth. So they're playing well, and we know all the type of injuries that they have right now. And they keep this up, Damian Lillard will have to be mentioned on the fringe of some MVP talk if they keep if they keep winning games at this rate. But very interesting matchup tonight with Utah and the Sixers. Again, in regards to Utah, no, they have the best record in the league, 22-5, won like 18 of the last 19 games. I'm not sold on Utah. I think Utah is a classic regular season team. I'm really not sold on Utah because I just don't buy. I don't buy into their second scorer. I don't think they have legit second scorer. Gobert, great defensive player, will get you some putback dunks and catch some alley-oop dunks, but you can't throw the ball into Rudy Gobert and say, "Give me a basket." No, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Now he and Donovan Mitchell will be all-stars this year. Gobert could be defensive player of the year. Mitchell probably will be on one of these All NBA teams. But they don't have that second guy, that second star player who can get a bucket. You need at least two of those. The Nets have three of them. Okay, so you need at least two of those guys that can get you buckets, especially in the playoffs. They only have one. Again, I think they're a deep team. They shoot the three well. They do everything. They do a lot of things well that will get you a big time regular season record. Deep team, defend, shoot, shoot the ball well. So they have the makeup of that type of team. They are not quite, to me, built for the playoffs. Now, if Anthony Davis's Achilles is doesn't get better, and the Lakers are compromised from that standpoint, then all bets are off. Could Utah make a run in the playoffs and get to the finals possibly? Maybe, because after when you get past the Lakers, no dominant team in the Western Conference that should scare Utah. Um, you know, Not Denver, not the Clippers, not Portland, none of those teams. So, but I'm going by the assumption until I see otherwise that if Anthony Davis is back relatively healthy, then they cannot beat the Lakers. But again, that a lot that depends on the health of Anthony Davis. But again, I think Utah is very good. I think Utah is very good. I think they're improved. They're not. I don't think they can win a championship. I just don't. So, um, certainly keep your eye on them. Boston struggling. They just need to get healthy. They got a bunch. Kemba Walker's been in and out. You have Tatum was awful last night, but that's an aberration. But listen, Marcus Smart. You can say what you want about Marcus Smart. The flopping annoys you. That guy is a winning basketball player. He is a top defensive player, perimeter defensive player. He is a guy he can make outside shots. He is one of those intangible guys that you can win championships with, and that they miss him in the worst way. In the worst way, they miss him. His intensity, his his swag on the court. Um, so you can say what you want about Marcus Smart, love him or hate him. He's a valuable piece of that team, and it's not a coincidence that his injury has coincided with the Celtic struggles. That's certainly not a coincidence at all, least bit. But with that being said, you have two All-Stars on your team. They still shouldn't be playing that. They should not be a 500 team. And that's what they are right now. They should not be a 500 team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the team. So be interesting to see if they can kind of keep their heads above water until Smart gets back. Very interesting situation going on with one Russell Wilson. He went on the Dan Patrick show last week, middle of the week, and basically was complaining about getting hit too much. He did take some responsibility for it, considering his playing style and how he likes to hold the ball to make plays, allowing his receivers to get open and making plays on the run. But threw in the fact that he would like more say in terms of personnel decisions. Now, a few ways you could take this. You could take it that he wants more money. Or you can take it, and this is the way I take it, that he wants out of Seattle. and that he is doing this. He's kind of like not outright saying he wants out Seattle, or not outright saying he wants more money. He's kind of trying to play the political, uh, give a subliminal political message. And from that standpoint, I think that I'll be interested to watch this situation, because if I'm Seattle, um, there's no way I'm trading Russell Wilson. Like he would have to absolutely, he would have to, he would have to just sit out. He would have to sit out, demand the trade outright, come out, demand the trade, sit out the season. There's no way in the world that I would trade Russell Wilson. It just would not happen. Um, you see this type of situation again. Quarterbacks are starting to realize how much power they have, how much influence that they have, and we are seeing a shift. Um, we're seeing something is happening right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the NFL deals with this, because it's not going anywhere. The quarterback position, we know, is the most important position in all the sports, the most valuable position in all the sports, and you're going to watch what Houston can talk all they want. Houston's going to trade. They're going to trade Deshaun Watson. That's going to happen. They're going to trade Deshaun Watson. And once that, and once that drops, I think you're going to see a shift change in the NFL, in particular, with a lot of these, in particular with these quarterbacks who are still in their primes, and who can demand, who have the kind of influence to where Russell Wilson can get players to come play with him. Russell Wilson can get players to come play with him. Who, there are guys that would take a little less money to go play with Russell Wilson, probably win a championship. It's put Seattle in an interesting spot, because Jamal Adams, they traded a lot of capital to get Jamal Adams. Okay, and Jamal Adams played great this year. First team All Pro again, Pro Bowl, the whole nine. Um, so, you trade Russell Wilson, Jamal Adams is not going to want to be there. Trade Russell Wilson. Again, I'm going to see how Russell Wilson plays this. Is Russell Wilson the kind of player that would cause disruption in the locker room if he were not traded? Because I think he wants to be traded myself. I really believe he wants to be traded. Yeah, he's been with Pete. Listen, been with Pete Carroll. Sometimes players get tired of coaches and tired. Sometimes these guys. Remember this generation of athletes. I'm not knocking them. It's not. They're not. They like guys like to move around. Guys like to. I mean, we see it in the NBA. Guys like to move around, and it's ugly. When he said that on the Dan Patrick show, like he basically threw the organization under the bus. He threw the offensive line under the bus. Threw a lot of people under the bus, which is uncharacteristic of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has came off as the ultimate team guy, the consummate locker room guy. That was a very calculated move by Russell Wilson. That was not just Russell Wilson just running his mouth. He knew exactly what he was doing. Could have easily went behind closed doors to Seattle brass, Pete Carroll, the general manager, and said, "Look, this is what I want. This is what I think should happen." No, 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 no. He chose to go on a syndicated national talk show host program and say, put it out there. The question to me is, because quarterbacks, I want to see how Deshaun Watson plays, his situation, how that plays out. Will the NFL, who has been used to doing things their way forever, which teams are going to adjust with this changing of the times? Because times are changing in the NFL in regards to this quarterback situation, in regards to player empowerment, in regards to quarterbacks. So they have that type of influence, that type of power. Which teams will adjust? Because they're gonna be a number of teams that are gonna be just satisfied and content with doing it the way it's been done. You're the player, you play. You have no say in any moves or any free agency or anything like that. So with that mentality that's dominated the NFL for 100 years. There's gonna be a number of teams that are still on who will still adhere to that. There will be a couple teams. There will be a couple teams that say, you know what, this is 2021. You don't win without a great quarterback. That's okay. What do you want? What do you want, Russell? But I'll be honest with you. I don't think I heard somebody make a point about this. Well, is that quarterback willing to do the scouting and hundreds of hours of preparation that it takes to draft a player, or pick a free agent? No. You're missing the whole boat. Organizations, and Mike Tannenbaum mentioned this in an article today. Says it's nothing new for an organization to consult with a player, a quarterback, about a prospective free agent, or ask a quarterback, what do you need? It's not out of the ordinary. It's happened before. So it's not a matter of you giving Russell Wilson the power to make that decision. It's just a matter of you giving him the respect to say, hey, Russell, what do you think? What do you think about our offense? What do you think? What could you use? How can we get better? Rather than just shut up and throw the football. Because when you don't say anything, in essence, what you're telling him to do is shut up and throw the football. You're getting paid a lot of money. You got that Brett Favre, Dick Vermeil mentality. You get paid a lot of money. You don't need a say in terms of what we do with our organization, despite the fact that you as a quarterback are by far the most important aspect of the team, and you as a quarterback have the influence to get to get free agents to come here, or you as a quarterback have know what we need for our offense. So I don't think Russell Wilson wants to be a quasi general manager, a vice president of the team. No, he just wants to be included. He wants to be treated like a superstar franchise quarterback in 2021. Besides getting paid the money, it's just not about the money anymore with today's athlete. It's just not about the money. These guys are smart businessmen. They are, especially in the NBA, they are smart businessmen. They're making a ton of money off the court in endorsements. Russell Wilson is making a lot of money in terms of endorsements. He's married to Seattle. No, she's probably making more money than her right now. But anyway, that's another story. But the point is, it's just not about, you can't just buy these dudes, and that doesn't work anymore. These guys are way more sophisticated with their thought process than just writing a check. And again, our organization's going to realize that the ones that do, they're going to win the championships. The ones that don't will be left behind. It's just that simple. Had an opportunity, of course, to see Judas and the Black Messiah this weekend. Of course, it's out on streaming. Yeah, that's been the one thing about the streaming process, about streaming, and the one, I still rather watch a movie at the movie theaters. I much rather saw this at the movie theaters, But you know what? Thank God for HBO Max. Um, it is one of these movies where it's very triggering as a Black man. It's absolutely a must see. It's one of these movies that will make you want to know more. Want to know more. There's all there's to it. I ordered the book yesterday, a couple of days ago, about the Black Panther Party. I'll pull it up real quick. The name of the book, I strongly recommend. I'm only 20 pages into it, and I'm already hooked. The Black Against the Empire: The History and Politics of the Black Panther Party, by Joshua Bloom and Waldo Martin Jr. This is a movie that, again, gave you a perspective that we had never seen before. We had never seen the Fred Hampton story put out on film, and gave you that much more insight on the Black Panther Party. Again, I'm not giving anything away. I mean, it's based off a true story, but there are some aspects in the movie that I'm sure people did not know, because it's been a while. It's happened in the late '60s, early '70s, the late '60s. But it is a movie that will just make you think. Will make you think, and you'll be asking a lot of questions after watching this. To me, I think it's the best movie I've seen since Black Panther, and that was in 2018. So in the last 3 years, it's the best movie I've seen, and the performances were top notch. I mean, Lakeith Stanfield, Daniel Kaluuya, both. And again, not that they need validation from the Academy Awards, but it would be it'd be a joke if they didn't receive Oscar nominations. Um, but this is one of those movies that just you have to just when I mean a must see, is an absolute must see, and it really speaks to it spoke to a couple things. It spoke to white fear, and it spoke to the power of the people. Those are the two things that it spoke to me. We'll get back to the power of the people, because that will be brought up again in this podcast. But white fear. I mean, what transpired, the events that transpired, were a lot to do with, mainly do with white fear. I mean, there's no two ways about it. So definitely recommend it. Um, I've already know some people that have seen it, watched it multiple times. I don't know if I can watch it multiple times. It's very, again, I keep using the word triggering, but it's it it hits at a lot of spots. It's a tough watch from that standpoint, as a Black man. It really is. So might watch it again. I might need another week or so or a couple weeks before I watch it again. I'm gonna watch it again, of course. But I don't know if I can watch it multiple times. I watched Black Panther 3 times in a 2-week time span. I don't think that's gonna happen with this movie with me. But it might. Who knows? We'll see. But definitely check this movie. Check this movie out. Dave Chappelle, back in the news. Chappelle dropped wasn't a special, but he dropped a snippet it was about 10 minutes. Really about 7.5 minutes, because the last 3 minutes of it were showing highlights of Chappelle's show, as he got that back. He talked about a lot. He talked about a few things. Talked about how how he got compensated for Chappelle's show due to the power of the audience once he told people that don't support Chappelle's show, considering how don't support Chappelle's show. Now not only the Netflix and those streaming services pull it, but it wasn't worth anything because people basically stopped fucking with the show. And he said that they came back to him, they cut him a check, apologized, did all the right things, and the show is back on streaming services, back on back on HBO Max. And he said that was due to the power of the people. That was due to you, the consumer, who stopped watching it, and it made it and made it a worthless commodity, basically. And he said a few other things as well. Talking about people that was calling him out for having comedy shows during Corona, even though he was taking every type of precaution known to man. I mean, you hear stories of that when Chappelle was having those shows, you had to be tested. Everybody was getting tested multiple times a day. So it was just one of those things that, people, he ended up getting caught. He ended up catching it, but he said catching it, but he didn't catch it because of a lack of precautions. There was a lack of precautions of being reckless. But the most important thing he said to me was how much power we as society, we as people have power that we don't realize we have. We get frustrated with government, we get frustrated with systems and institutions, but we can change those systems. We can change those institutions. To me, it's kind of like, how far are you willing to go? Like with what transpired with the Chappelle show, people clearly stopped watching. Now that's a sacrifice to a lot of people. A lot of people love Chappelle show. I love Chappelle show. The first two seasons, I love Chappelle show. Both seasons. But when he made that announcement, I was like, nah, can't watch it anymore, period. And enough people had that same sentiment to where they stopped watching it. And these are the benefits that, and it benefited Dave Chappelle, but it also benefited, it also shows, as a society, as a group, as individuals, as a group, what can happen when people are on the same page. It's, to me, a matter of how far are you willing to go, how much are you willing to sacrifice. I mentioned this with the NFL. If enough of these quarterbacks say, "Hey, I will sit out a season," you know what? I'm not playing for this franchise anymore. If Deshaun Watson says I'll sit out a season, that's a major sacrifice. Sacrificing anywhere from $30 million. Then he's going to get his wish and probably get traded in the offseason. Fred Hampton was willing to die for what he believed in and recognized in terms of power, the power of the people. Recognized that, identified that. That was probably one of the genius of Fred Hampton. One of the geniuses of Fred Hampton was identifying that at such a young age, 19, 20, 21 years old. So that is the jewel that stood out to me in this little snippet that I saw with Dave Chappelle. And I think we forget how much power we do have because we get frustrated by what's going on in our society. Because you have more power than you believe, than you think you do have. You really do. Couple of things before I let you go. So I have not been into the college basketball like I have in past years, and it's not even close. I mean, everybody's listened to this program from the Saturday morning wake up call to the Cyril-Quinn review to now Real Deal podcast knows that I'm a college basketball fanatic. Now, I watched some of the games and followed some of the storylines. So I understand, that Baylor, that Gonzaga and Baylor are clearly the two teams to beat. All due respect to the Big Ten, which has three of the top five teams in the country, with Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois. But I think when you look at college basketball right now, you have Gonzaga and Baylor playing at this incredible level. That's one story. The second story is how many of our beloved blue blood programs are struggling. Kentucky's probably not going to make the tournament this year. Duke doesn't look like they're going to make the tournament. Michigan State is on the bubble. North Carolina is on the bubble. Those are four. Kansas just got back into the rankings this week. Last week they dropped out the rankings for the first time in 12 years. They're not a championship contender though. So I mean, you look at the rankings, you see teams like Creighton and Drake, Loyola Chicago, San Diego State. I mean, you see some of these teams that you like, huh? What are they doing here? So it's been a tough year for college basketball with the pandemic, and just when you don't have those programs near at the top, then college basketball has gotten spoiled with with North Carolina and Dukes and Kentucky's always being there, Michigan State's to a lesser extent always being there year in and year out. It's not the case this year. It's not the case at all. I'm just blown away by how I just don't know. I guess I should. I don't know how Kentucky is this bad. To be honest with you, it's very confusing. It's very confusing to see how Kentucky is this bad. That's why I'm not a Calipari fan at all. One of the most overrated coaches in college sports because you're getting all these NBA quote unquote draft picks and all these number one recruits year in and year out. Nick Saban does the same thing, but Nick Saban wins championships. He wins championships every year. Like you got seven of them, six of them at Alabama. And he loses players every year as well to the NFL. But he wins all the time. For all the pros that John Calipari has garnered during his tenure at Kentucky, he has one championship. One. Think about that. One. What year did he came in? I think he came there in 2010. Yeah. Yeah. 2009, 2010 season was his first season. So he's been there. I think this is his 12th year at Kentucky. It's one title. So, this is a year where was going to be about chemistry. It was going to be about probably, veteran players, the juniors, sophomores and juniors on these teams, the experienced teams being able to deal with the mental strain that a pandemic or that not playing for 2 or 3 weeks can have on you. Again, it certainly has not affected Gonzaga or Baylor. That is, of course, the dream national championship that I think we will see. But again, it's been very interesting to see all of these blue blood teams struggling. All of them had high hope. I mean, Kentucky was top 10 preseason. Duke definitely was top 10 preseason. North Carolina was top 15. Michigan State was top 20. All of them was ranked high in the preseason before the season started. Was highly regarded before the season started. So it's not like they came into people saw this coming. People did not see this coming at all. So again, I starting to get a little bit more into college basketball as we head towards the tournament. Certainly got my eyes on Gonzaga and Baylor as those two teams are seemingly colliding to a possible matchup in the national championship. Last week there was a lot of talk in terms of who was the GOAT in team sports, and the names Tom Brady, Michael Jordan come up at the top of the list. LeBron to a lesser extent. And and then a tweet came out. A friend of mine sent me a tweet that Bill Russell sent out late last week. I think it was probably Thursday or Friday, maybe one of those days. So he basically had a picture of him and all his 11 rings and said, "You're getting closer." And I'm all here for it. I absolutely probably the best tweet I've seen in 2021. My favorite tweet of 2021. If there's if I have the tweet of the year, it would be that so far, because the amount of disrespect that Bill Russell gets, despite the fact that he is the most accomplished athlete in the history of team sports, it's remarkable how a guy who was the best player on a team that won 11 championships in 13 years, 8 straight, has 5 MVPs, outplayed Wilt Chamberlain constantly, never lost to the Lakers. Undefeated in game 7s, 11-1 in the NBA Finals. I think part of it is because he doesn't have the accolades that he should have. That if he came along in today's game, and then what I mean by that is there was not a Defensive Player of the Year award around. There was no Finals MVPs award around. They didn't keep block shots. So Bill Russell would have about 7 to 8 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He would probably be, along with Wilt Chamberlain, the all-time leader in career block shots. And he would probably have God knows how many, 6 or 7, maybe even more NBA Finals MVPs. They named the award after him for a reason. Okay, so that contributes to it, and plus, again, it goes. It's a generational thing as well. If you didn't see Bill Russell play, or if you're not a basketball nerd like I am, and we'll go back and watch YouTube or read a lot of stuff on Russell and what things that he did. But I even see people older than me who just immediately go towards the modern play, go towards Jordan, LeBron, Magic, Kareem, Wilt, Shaq, Kobe, even those guys, and just without regard, don't even mention Bill Russell in those conversations. Which again, if I'm ranking top 3 players of all time, it's Jordan, Russell, Kareem. And I had LeBron 4th. If you want to put LeBron 4th over 3rd over Kareem, okay, I have no problem with that. But I'm giving you that; those are my top 4. Jordan, Russell, Kareem, and LeBron. So again, it's just again, if Bill Russell came along now and did what he did, and people could actually witness it, it wouldn't even be a discussion in regards to who's the greatest player of all time or who's the greatest, or it wouldn't be. Kim Brown was the best player on the team that won 8 straight championships. I think the fact that we didn't see it, we kind of just don't believe it. Don't believe that. I almost don't believe that it happened. Or you'll hear people talk about, well, the playoffs weren't as long as they were, and so and this and that. I'm like, well, okay, everybody had the same amount of rounds to go through in the playoffs. You had less teams, which means there was more talent on each team. Okay, there were multiple Hall of Famers on every team, just about. At least minimum 1. A lot of teams even have 2. Okay. So I'm not buying that. Um, again, I would just encourage anybody, just go check out Bill Russell's highlights. Go check out what Bill Russell actually accomplished. So wanted to end the program with that. Um, as always, this is the Real Deal podcast. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Um, this podcast will be up before later on this evening, or maybe even early Tuesday morning. Have a great rest of the evening and rest of the week. I will see you later on in the week. I'm out.